Hi, I'm David with Arizona MMC. Today I'm out at the Scottsdale Civic Center, which is in the heart of Old Town Scottsdale. It's a 21-acre park. Gorgeous. You have a bunch of lagoons, sculptures, restaurants, nightclubs, a couple hotels abut up against the park. The library is here, City Hall, and then you also have the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art and the Scottsdale Performing Arts Center. So a lot here in this small little piece of real estate. Come check it out if you're in this neck of the woods. The topic for today is Arizona medical marijuana dispensaries and why they're dead on arrival. I've been hoping that after Arizona passed the Medical Marijuana Act back in November 2010, that they would continue to go ahead with the people's wishes and implement the full law. They did the first part of it, which is allowing patients to obtain their Arizona medical marijuana cards, and then to there's specific ways in which they can obtain the medicinal cannabis for usage. That part of the program is doing fine. I mean, we're getting up to 14,000 patients who have cards. So that's doing really well. You know, there's 13 qualifying conditions that range anywhere from chronic pain to ALS to MS, cancer, severe nausea, vomiting. So patients who desire to get a card are able to do that, and the state is still issuing them. In fact, they issue them fairly quickly. Usually you get the certification, and patients at our center get that, and then they submit it to the state online, and they usually get their card within a week. So the problem is phase 2, which was the dispensary program. There were supposed to be 120 some dispensary licenses given out in the state. There was a whole process, a lottery system and everything that, you know, applicants were going to go through. And the whole thing was supposed to be monitored from, you know, seed to sale. Okay? They had this big plan and everything, but it got cut short. In 2009, the Obama administration put out a memo saying they were going to be hands-off to either qualified patients or to businesses abiding by state law. Here we are 2 years later. They've done a complete 180. Well, let's call it a 165. They left the patients alone, so let's call that 15 degrees. But everything else they've gone up against. I mean, recently there's 4 attorneys in California, U.S. attorneys, who are now going after the dispensary program there, saying that they comprise, you know, large organizations. The IRS is going after dispensaries in California. The federal government is putting pressure on FDI-insured banks to not do business with any medical marijuana dispensaries. One example, I mean, there's a very large dispensary in Oakland that got a tax bill from the IRS for $2.5 million. And they paid a lot of taxes to the state and to the federal government. But the federal government came back and said, due to a tax code provision of 1980, so it's about 30 years old, that stated that drug cartels or illegal drug traffickers have to pay taxes based off of simply revenues minus the drug. You can't subtract all the other costs of doing business, like your light bill, your wages. So they came back and hit this dispensary with a $2.5 million bill. I mean, 99.9% of the population, whether they agree with marijuana or not, would look at that and say, give me a break. How can you run a business if you're paying taxes on everything that you're supposed to be able to write off as a legitimate business? So that's the kind of tactic that we're seeing on multiple fronts here. The Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency recently said that if you're a medical marijuana card holder, you can't buy a gun. So, you know, every sort of government agency has probably either been instructed or is now going forward with something against the industry of medical marijuana, which in California alone, by the way, is $1.7 billion a year. When you look at the problems that California is having, and when you look at the fact that Arizona's governor sued the Department of Justice to gain clarification on whether state employees were going to be sued or not, they have come back and said, it was either Eric Holder or one of the other U.S. attorneys, that was not part of what they stated. They were not going to sue state workers for putting the applications through. They haven't done that before, and it wasn't even said in Arizona's letter that they received. So most people aren't quite sure, including me, what the lawsuit's trying to accomplish. Is it trying to accomplish a reversal of the law itself? You know, because it only passed by a small margin. That's the question. But it appears to me that with that lawsuit against the feds, with what is happening in California and the fact that the county passed a law, some kind of rule that you can't get zoned for a dispensary if you're not in compliance with federal law. Well, that was the whole point, right? 16 states, plus the District of Columbia, have passed medical marijuana for debilitating conditions against what the federal law says. I mean, it's a controlled substance, Schedule 1. It's federally illegal. Why would 16 states pass it against the federal government if they then planned on going against their own people's wishes? That's the prevailing attitude among the common people. So that's a question. But right now, it appears that medical marijuana dispensaries in Arizona are dead on arrival, and that we're stuck with the card program, and patients are either growing their own marijuana, obtaining it from other card holders, those types of things. I'll have more in a couple weeks with the update for November. I'm David with Arizona MMC.